In this video, we continue our series of looking at affordable watches that look way more expensive than what the price tag might indicate. So first, big thank you to the Facebook group for supplying a lot of feedback when constructing this video. And if you guys want to join that group, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Of course, these watches are all affordable. I don't want to say they're something more than what they are, but by looking at them on the surface, I think they do look more expensive. So really what we're trying to look for is value for money and the aesthetics of the watch themselves. And to start off our list today, I want to look at some Seiko 5s that I don't think get as much love as other ones do. And first up, the Seiko SNX S79. So this watch comes in with a price of $70 to $90 typically. Case size, we're looking at 38 millimeters, powered by an automatic Seiko 7S26 movement, has a water resistance of 30 meters, and has a hard Lex crystal. So this watch comes with a 12 millimeter thickness for its case, has that day-date complication, but why I think this watch is really interesting is I don't see it mentioned as much, but it has that beautiful black sunburst dial, applied indices, and I think is a great option for someone that's looking for, say, like an everyday watch that has the ability to maybe dress it up. I see a lot more potential with dressing up this watch compared to a lot of other Seiko 5s. The only other watches that I think you can make a case for from the Seiko 5 series is the Seiko 5 SNK 790 series. I own the Seiko SNK 791 with that light blue dial. Really like that watch as well, so I'll throw them as an honorable mention. But this particular watch, my friend Adrian from Bark and Jack has done a deep dive review of it. He did a really good job on it. So if you are interested in learning a little more about this watch, definitely go check it out. And then next up, we have another Seiko watch. And this one was one I didn't include in my original lineup of watches, but after I produced this last video, I realized that it was a complete omission of this watch. And it made me think this watch is pretty underrated. And that is the Seiko SNKL 41. So when I looked at the best affordable watches from Japan, I looked at the watch, the SNKL 23, but totally forgot to mention this particular model. You also have the 43 as well, but I really like this 41 model. The watch comes in with a price of $70 to around $130, where I mostly see it going for. 38 millimeter case, powered by an automatic Seiko 7S26 movement, water resistance 30 meters, and again, hard Lex crystal. A lot of the same specs, but from a visual standpoint, I think this is a very elegant looking watch, and I think it just goes to show the amount of versatility that comes in the Seiko 5 line. So when I asked the Facebook group, what watches should we mention in this series, this was one that got mentioned quite a bit, and that is the Richard Legrand Odyssey. And I'm sure many of you may have not heard of this watch before, some of you might have, and it has been getting a good amount of respect, and I think for good reason when you actually are looking at the specs of this watch. So this watch comes in with a price of $230 to $300, case size of 41 millimeters, powered by an automatic Seiko NH35A movement, water resistance of 200 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. It's double dome sapphire with anti-reflective coating. It has a unidirectional diver bezel with luminous markings and a sapphire crystal insert. You have the option for a date and a no date, and I know that the total resistance with Microbrands, but I think this is one that actually is presenting some pretty good value for money here. So an interesting one to look out and pretty good suggestion by the group. Now next up, we have a personal favorite of mine, the Orient Mako 2 USA. So I've done a review on the Orient Mako 2 before. If you've not seen that, I feel like I've mentioned it many times. The link will be in the description below, but I personally love this. If you have the money to cough up a little bit more, I mean, it's double the price of the original Mako 2. This is an amazing option, and I think a very unique model also. For specs here, we're currently looking at $315 on Orient Mako USA's website, 41.5 millimeters, movement automatic F6922, water resistance of 200 meters, and it also has a sapphire crystal. And I personally think this is by far my favorite Orient diver. I think it has a more cohesive and complementary design compared to the standard Mako 2 and Ray 2, which I think both of them have aspects of their designs that I would love to just kind of push together in one watch. And I think this watch does it really well. And also the prices come down quite a bit. So you can get these now for $315, which I think is a good deal for money. And with these rising SKX prices, I think this should be something that more people should be considering. So when you think of affordable watches, you don't technically usually think of chronographs, but we actually did get 2 mentions in the Facebook group post when I did ask for suggestions here. So starting us off, we have the Seagull 1963. Now this watch comes with a price of around $300 to $350. We're looking at a case size of 38 millimeters. Movement is a Seagull hand wind movement. This is the ST21. Water resistance of 30 meters and has a sapphire crystal. So personally, I don't think this watch is necessary for me in terms of its aesthetic, but I do kind of like the vintage styling that it has. And when you're looking for a hand wound chronograph at this price range, I mean, you really don't have many options. So I think this is absolutely deserves a mention, and it does look a little bit more expensive than what might indicate just being a chronograph that's pretty well constructed at this price range. And the other chronograph that was mentioned here was the Brew Retrograph. So I recently did a mention of this watch in recent releases. I think it was back in November, and people loved it. People loved this watch, and it got a lot of thumbs up in the group to be mentioned in this more affordable tier. So this watch comes with a $350 price. We're looking at a case size dimensions of 38 millimeters by 41.5 millimeters, powered by a Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz movement, water resistance of 50 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. So overall, I think Brew is one of my favorite micro brands for several reasons. I think they play off that coffee house branding really well without being too corny, and I think they fall in a price range that makes it easier to consider going the Microbrand route. And now for our last two watches, they're ones that fall underneath the Swatch umbrella. And I think that speaks to the common phenomenon that happens with a lot of Swatch brands. You almost forget about most of them half the time. And the first one is Certina. And the Certina model we're looking at is the DS1 Powermatic 80. The reference here is a long one. It is the C02980716 03101. The price here, we're looking at $400 to $700. That's usually where I see them fluctuating between. Case size, 40 millimeters, powered by an automatic Powermatic 80 movement. This is an ETA-based movement, but it comes with that 80-hour power reserve, which I think this is just really good value for money here. Water resistance of 100 meters and has a sapphire crystal. So across the board, I think this is a great watch. It looks great with those rose color indices. I like the white dial version, this particular reference the most. I think it just looks a little bit more expensive. And I've talked about Certina a lot as being an underrated brand in general, but I think just their dress models don't get as much love as, say, like their divers would. So I wanted to mention this watch today. And now for our last watch, we have Tissot. But when you think of Tissot, you don't necessarily think of this watch. Maybe you think of the Visidate, think of the Swissmatic, maybe you think of the Belade. I don't think many people think of the Lacroix. This watch comes in with a price of $350 to around $500, $600 where I see them kind of peaking out at. Case size of 39 millimeters. Again, we're looking at an automatic Powermatic 80 movement. And again, ETA-based movement, that 80-hour power reserve, good value there. Water resistance of 30 meters and has a sapphire crystal. But why I wanted to choose this watch, again, because I think it is very forgotten when you're thinking of the Tissot dress watch lineup, is because it just looks very elegant in comparison. It has that galoche finish dial that complement the hands and Roman numerals incredibly well, and has a nicely embossed hybrid case back that also displays a bit of the movement. So ultimately, just a great watch that I think you should really consider when you're looking for a dress watch, maybe in this price range. All right, guys, so what did you think of this video? If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I could see doing a part 3 maybe somewhere down the line, but I want to give it a little bit of a break. But I'd love to see comments down below, any suggestions for that part 3 that might come in the future. If you're trying to bring your watch to the next level, definitely go head over to our store where we have some of the best watch straps in the industry. I put them up against any others, and also any purchase really supports the channel. That's probably the best way to support the channel outside of watching the content and subscribing and all of that good stuff. On top of that, if you want to enter our watch giveaway, you can fill out the watch giveaway form down below, as well as following me on Instagram. If you do those two things, you're good to go for all months in the future. I get a lot of questions about that, so that if you do it once, you're good. You're good to go. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.